All right, y'all. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're tuning in. I'm grateful to have you here. And we got two highly respected titans in the building today, Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. And before you keyboard warriors get to thugging in my comments section, yes, I do realize this clip is at least 6 months old, but it's new to me. So hush, let's get it popping.
If categories dissolve, especially fundamental ones, the culture is dissolving because the culture is a structure of category. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Right. So, and in fact, culture is a structure of category that we all share. So we see things the same way. Well, that's why we can talk. I mean, not exactly the same way, because then we'd have nothing to talk about. But roughly speaking, we have a bedrock of agreement. That's the Bible, by the way. So I just walked through the Museum of the Bible in Washington. That was very cool. It's a very cool museum.
So the structure, that's what the Bible
Yeah, it's what
provides.
I figured out. I just figured this out this week. So it was a cool thing to walk through because it's chronological. They have one floor which is the history of the Bible. Mm. But it's not exactly that. It's really what it is the history of the book. Now, in many ways, the first book was the Bible. I mean, literally, because at one point there was only one book. Like, as far as our Western culture is concerned, there was one book. And for a while, literally, there was only one book. And that book was the Bible. And then before it was the Bible, it was it was scrolls and it was writings on papyrus. But we were starting to aggregate written text together. And it went through all sorts of technological transformations. And then it became books that everybody could buy, the book everybody could buy. And the first one of those was the Bible. And then it became all sorts of books that everybody could buy. But all those books, in some sense, emerged out of that underlying book. And that book itself, the Bible isn't a book, it's a library. It's a collection of books. And so what I figured out was, partly because I was talking to my brother-in-law, Jim Keller, who's the world's greatest chip designer and has now designed a chip that's as powerful as the human brain, which is optimized for artificial intelligence learning, by the way.
That's scary.
And so I talked to him about that. He said, "You heard of the internet?" I said, "Yeah, Jim, I've heard of the internet." He said, "This is way more revolutionary than that." So in any case, we were talking about meaning in text because we were talking about translation and the problem of understanding text. And Jim said, the meaning of words is coded in the relationship of the words to one another. And the postmodernists make that case, that all meaning is derived from the relationship between words. That's wrong because, well, what about rage? That's not words. And what about moving your hand? That's not words. So it's wrong, but part of it's right because the meaning we derive from the verbal domain is encoded in the relationship between words. So now then you think, well, let's think about the relationship between words. Well, some words are dependent on other words. Some ideas are dependent on other ideas. The more ideas are dependent on a given idea, the more fundamental that idea is. That's a definition of fundamental. So now imagine you have an aggregation of texts in a civilization. You say, which are the fundamental texts? And the answer is the texts upon which most other texts depend. And so you'd put Shakespeare way in there in English because so many texts are dependent on Shakespeare's literary revelations. And Milton would be in that category, and Dante would be in that category, at least in translation. Fundamental authors, part of the Western canon, not because of the arbitrary dictates of power, but because those texts influenced more other texts. And then you think about that as a hierarchy, okay, with the Bible at its base, which is certainly the case. Now imagine that's the entire corpus of linguistic production, all things considered. Now, how do you understand that? Like, literally, how do you understand that? The answer is you sample it by reading and listening to stories and listening to people talk. You sample that whole domain. You build a low-resolution representation of that inside you, and then you listen and see through that. And so it isn't that the Bible is true. It's that the Bible is the precondition for the manifestation of truth, which makes it way more true than just true. It's a whole different kind of true. And I think this is not only literally the case, factually, I think it can't be any other way. It's the only way we can solve the problem of perception.
Oh my goodness. Good night. This man, Jordan Peterson, is brilliant. That was the best explanation of the Bible that I've ever heard in my life. The best explanation that I've ever heard. And I love how he was asking himself questions internally and answering them all while Joe was just sitting there cool, calm, composed, and silent. And I got big respect for Joe Rogan for just listening. He's an A+ example of great communication skills. And I'm amazed whenever I see a JP interview, a lot of them have been with women, they interrupt this genius of a man and it just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. I don't know about y'all, but at this point, I would love to see Thomas Sowell and Jordan Peterson sit down and have a honest heart-to-heart conversation. That would be one of the most entertaining, valuable pieces of information to ever touch this earth. And man, I want to see that someday. Going back to what Joe exemplified right there, just listening to Jordan, huge respect again. James said in James 1 verse 19, "My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires." I threw in verse 20 on top of the 19 as well. So Joe did a phenomenal job of that. And everybody nowadays is so quick to speak up. And when your mouth is open, you can't learn. You can't take in and digest new information. That's why society's so closed-minded. They're in these little echo chambers and they're never growing and learning anything new. And it's sad that when it comes to the Bible, people have actually used the Bible to separate rather than unite as it's intended to do. But everybody wants to try to create their own thought process, create their own journey when the foundation's already been laid, when the path has already been set in the good book, the Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth, the 66 books that are truth, that I build my life in, that I wasn't raised in, but it changed my life. That salvation through Jesus Christ changed my life in a way that I can't even fathom completely, and I can't put into context as well as it deserves. But thank God for creating all of us and creating the Bible and speaking to man through a multitude of different ways from Genesis to Revelation. It's a beautiful thing. It's the most beautiful thing ever. Proverbs 16:9 says, "I got to take it to scripture, dish out some biblical soul food. We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." So you can set all these lofty goals that you want to. You can say you're going to do this, but at the end of the day, the Lord is going to determine when you get there, how you get there, if you get there, and where you're going. So you just got to keep your eyes on him and realize he works it all together for the greater good for those that look to Jesus Christ. And for the real narcissist out there, the real negative person that's going to say, "Oh, here this Bible thumper goes again. Here this man believing in fairy tales and Sky Daddy and all the crazy things that I've heard over and over again, the negativity and hate in people's heart, the animosity." I get where you're coming from because I've been a skeptic before, but until you've tried it, until you've actually seen what the Lord can do and have him change your life, can you really question it? Do you know everything? Just say you know half of everything. Let's just say you know half everything. Wouldn't then it be possible that the other half of everything you don't know leaves the possibility of a God that created every single thing? Just ponder on that for a second. Some of y'all may get tired of me talking about my Christianity, my faith, and my relationship with the Lord. It's not just religion. It's a relationship that I have because I was saved. When Christ took on the cross, he saved me. He saved you. And I can't and won't stop talking about my faith. You can persecute me or not, but Jesus was resurrected from the grave, and he is the only way to salvation. How can you possibly expect me not to discuss that in every single video? And if he didn't, then there is no hope. There's zero hope, none. No being reunited in heaven with your loved ones, none of that. No purpose for doing anything, no purpose for being alive, no reason for existence in humanity at all. We're going to be dead a whole lot longer than we're alive, than we're walking this earth. We're going to be dead a very long time. So you better place your eggs and all your hopes and trusts and faith in the right things, in the right basket before it's all said and done, or else, it's going to get toasty or it's just going to be nothing. You could be right about all the earthly things that you want, but if you ain't right about Jesus, you ain't right about anything. And I think the main reason that people run from God and don't like hearing about faith and Jesus Christ and what he did and the ultimate sacrifice is because the same reason a thief can't find a police officer. They don't want to be held accountable for their sins and the evils and their actions. They want freedom, but we've proven time and time again, we can't handle freedom. We need guidelines. We need these instructions. We need a law in place to turn for how we're supposed to live. That's genuine freedom when you know where you're going and you know why you're going there. We've proven time and time again, the heart of man is evil, like so evil that we can't even fathom how evil it really is. So when you think you have freedom and when you don't know the truth of the Lord, it gets crazy out here in the streets. But if y'all been on my channel for a while, you know I can rant on this thing all day long. I'm not gonna hold you anymore. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate Jordan and Joe and the conversation. Whatever you guys think down below in the comments, let me know. Let me know your opinion, whether you agree or disagree. Let's keep this conversation rolling. Let's be civil and respectful. Again, we can all have our own viewpoints and still get along. We can still be friends or not. You can hate me, whatever it is. I'm still gonna pray for you. I'm still gonna want the best for you. But again, comment your thoughts down below. If you like these sort of videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all future ones I post. Share this video whether you agree or disagree with my take on it, just so you can get Jordan and Joe's information out there. I know Joe was kind of silent on this one, but it was necessary. He let the doctor, the genius, speak with the gifts that Jordan's been given. And I'm sure he saved a lot of people. I'm sure he's directed people onto a path that obviously I hope is in the Lord, but just to open their mind to a whole different thought process that most people probably can't comprehend, or that they just never fathomed it and took note of, took account of. So I love that about Jordan Peterson. So share this video for that. If you want to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee. Tap that little thanks button down below, has a heart next to it. Donate on PayPal. You don't got to do anything like that at all. Just showing up, supporting the channel. I appreciate the viewership, the friendship, or whatever we've developed in the time being here on your screen. All my links are down below if you want to get you some Gibby gear. That's my merch, video stuff that I use to make these possible, camera equipment, office gear, books that I recommend reading. Jordan Peterson's is definitely in there in case you didn't guess that already. But outside of that, I love y'all. I'm praying for you. Till next time, Godspeed. I'm gone.